She was probably the most famous blonde in history, and despite all the related jokes, Marilyn Monroe had an IQ 5 points higher than Albert Einstein's. It's one of the most popular myths about the actress, and it has been traveling the internet since around 2013. Back then, someone started the rumor that Monroe had an IQ of 165 or higher. We'll probably never know what the real number was, since she had never officially taken an IQ test. The famous actress had a troubled childhood. Her mother didn't have enough money to take care of her, so the future star had to move between orphanages and 12 foster homes. When she was 16, Norma Jean Baker, which was her real name, got married for the first time, most likely to escape the orphanage system. In 1944, the iconic blonde started working at an aircraft factory for 10 hours a day, inspecting the aircraft parachutes and spraying them with a fire retardant. Her career actually kicked off at that factory, where a photographer noticed her and took photos of her holding a propeller to later share as a morale booster for young men serving their country. The photos went viral, and soon enough, Monroe became a popular model and pinup girl, and eventually took screen tests at 20th Century Fox. Monroe's mother, who was a film cutter, named her after actress Norma Talmadge, since she knew her daughter would be a star from the very start. Norma played with her name and turned it into a stage name, Jean Adair. Then, she decided to change it again. First just the stage name, then legally. Monroe was her mother's maiden name. Although there was no evidence of it, the actress believed she was somehow related to James Monroe, and it probably inspired her to take that last name. The name Marilyn was inspired by a studio executive, Ben Lyon, who thought she resembled an actress called Marilyn Miller. Marilyn didn't know her father. At some point, she believed it was the legendary actor Clark Gable. She saw a picture of a man whose mustache looked similar on the wall. Her mother confirmed that she had dated that man, but wouldn't tell the daughter his name. The actress's signature breathy voice was her way of overcoming a childhood stutter. A speech therapist trained her to adopt that throaty style to overcome it. Once she was working on her final movie, Something's Got to Give, the stutter came back. It became so difficult for Monroe to deliver her lines that she had to leave the production. Truman Capote wanted Marilyn to play the lead role in the iconic Breakfast at Tiffanys. Holly Golightly's story even had several parallels with Monroe's uneasy childhood. She performed in 2 scenes as a test, and the playwright was absolutely amazed. Paramount decided that Audrey Hepburn would be better for the part. Capote never supported this choice, although he was great friends with Hepburn. Another possible reason why Monroe didn't take the part was that her advisor and acting coach talked her out of it. She was sure that it wasn't the type of character for the star. One of the most famous photos of Monroe standing on top of a subway grate in New York was a scene from the 7-Year Itch. It took 3 hours, and there were 14 takes and 100 photographers on the spot. The one who captured the shot that went down in history was Sam Shaw. According to his granddaughter, at some point, Monroe turned to him and yelled, "Hi, Sam Spade," which was what she called him. Sam caught that very moment. The action was going on at 1 a.m., but it didn't stop 2,000 to 5,000 fans from arriving at that spot. That crowd made plenty of noise, so the crew had to refilm the scene on the Fox lot in California. Marilyn was really careful not to show too much skin. Despite all her efforts, her then-husband, Joe DiMaggio, a famous baseball player, disapproved of the scene. It could have even been the reason for their divorce. The famous actress was a close friend and a fan of Ella Fitzgerald. Once, the jazz singer was denied a performance at the Mocambo Club. Monroe told the owner that she would sit in the front row every night if he allowed Fitzgerald to sing. The owner accepted the deal as he knew it would attract crowds to the club. This moment became a turning point in Fitzgerald's career and helped her prove she was the First Lady of Jazz. Oscar nominee Dawn Murray, who worked with Monroe on Bus Stop, shared that she wasn't comfortable in front of the camera. The star was an experienced actress, But she forgot many techniques, missed her marks, and got out of focus or out of the light. That was probably because she was terrified of being in front of the camera, or that she was a perfectionist afraid of doing something wrong. Even when she became successful, Marilyn never stopped improving her craft, taking modeling classes and studying. As she mentioned in interviews, she wouldn't settle for second best. She studied her photos at home to see what she looked like and how she could improve herself in front of the mirror. Marilyn loved to read a lot. Her library included over 400 books on art, philosophy, psychology, politics, poetry, theology, and history. She once mentioned in an interview that she liked going to bookstores when she was bored. She would open a book at random and buy it if the paragraph she read got her interested. Out of thousands of photos ever taken of her, she preferred the ones where she was reading. Monroe also wrote poetry herself. The actress was very witty, with a unique sense of humor. Once, a journalist asked her if she thought Arthur Miller had married her because he needed a muse. She agreed to answer only if her reply would be printed without edits. Once the journalist agreed, all she said was, "No comment." The famous skin-colored gown covered with 2,500 rhinestones that Monroe wore to sing "Happy Birthday" to John F. Kennedy in 1962 was so tight that they had to sew her into the dress. It went off an auction for over $1.25 million over 30 years later and set a record for the most expensive single item of clothing. In 2016, Ripley's Believe It or Not bought the dress for $4.8 million. One of the popular stories about Marilyn that's quite likely to be true is that she had a thing for older men. Her roommate from the 1940s remembered that the actress mentioned she had a crush on Albert Einstein. After she passed away, the roommate noticed there was a framed photo of him on Monroe's white piano. Frank Sinatra gave Marilyn quite a special gift, a Maltese Terrier puppy. The actress called it Mafia, or Muff, as a joke about the singer's connections with the Mafia. Muff liked to nap on a pricey fur coat that Sinatra also had gifted Monroe. The star would take her beloved pet to expensive restaurants and department stores. Marilyn loved dogs her entire life, had several of them as pets, and always wanted to help strays. 2 Polaroid photos of Maff, her final pet who outlived her, went off an auction at Christie's house for more than $220,000 in 1999. The star left 75% of her intellectual property and estate to her acting coach. She left the remaining 25% of her assets to her psychiatrist and insisted that the money would be donated to a psychiatric institution of her choice. The funds went to support young people struggling with mental health. She found that matter important because of what she experienced growing up.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.